Physics and chemistry are the bane of many a high school student. But what if we're pitching the ideas to them too late? Can 8-year-olds absorb atomic theory? One teacher has asked that question in a bold experiment at a Brisbane primary school, and he says it shows young minds are much more advanced than we think. Matt Wordsworth reports.
And the electrons are negative.
Ithaca Creek State School in Brisbane's western suburbs is a typical primary school, but this is definitely not the usual fare for 8 and 9-year-olds.
And what do we call a substance that is made up of just one kind of atom? Yep, an element. That's perfect.
For 25 years, Ian Stewart taught physics and chemistry to high school students, but it was a conversation with his young son that gave him an idea.
My son, Tom, was asking me questions about science, and when I explained it, he got it straight away. There was no barrier to him understanding the concepts as I explained. And I kept it getting more and more complex, more and more abstract, and he absorbed it all.
Ian's son, Tom, was in my class, and Ian approached the school to try and introduce some of these concepts. So a number of the teachers at the school were willing to give it a go, and I was one of them. And basically it's just been this experiment that sort of rolled on from there.
The Year 3 and 4 composite class at Ithaca Creek is now learning science usually reserved for years 10 and 11.
Now, what we've got here is an example of the lightest possible atom in the universe, which of course is hydrogen.
It's also as hands-on as possible. They don't just learn about the periodic table and how the elements are ordered by weight, they feel the difference between carbon, magnesium, silver and gold.
Heavier than silver? Gold is way heavier than silver if you got an equal amount of it.
And that's what
Ian Stewart even delves into the structure of the atom, introducing protons, neutrons and electrons.
What are we going to do with lithium, Izzy?
We're gonna put 3 protons in the nucleus.
Exactly.
And then we're going to put, because the first shell can only hold 2 electrons, so we're going to put 1 electron on the second shell.
It's number 10 on the periodic table, is it?
Yeah.
So what's it got?
Classroom teacher Adrian Quinn says he can see his students understand the abstract concepts, which are so different to what's in their normal science lessons.
Well, from my perspective, I've been really impressed and surprised too. The kids have been really engaged, they've adapted to it well. Their recall has been quite good, so he can introduce a concept and a few weeks later something will come up and I'll relate it back to that concept, and you can see that the kids get that.
Oxygen, chlorine and neon.
Excellent.
What's the kind of science that they're normally taught?
It's the science about the real world, but it's the world that they can see and touch and feel. And a lot of the science approach is procedural. So it's what's a fair test and how do we assess what the human impact has been on something. So it's things that they can see and touch, but it doesn't go down to, well, so if we're talking about water doing erosion, they'd never get to the concept of, well, what actually is water.
Both teachers would like to see a formal research project to test what they've observed and hope the science curriculum will change.
It's thrilling that we're discovering that they're able to grasp much more than we thought they could. We can raise our expectations of kids.
What kind of building blocks do you think that you're laying here that will help the children later on?
I think they're huge, because these are fundamental concepts about how the universe is made up. And to know those sorts of things now then helps them with every step of their education.
Australia's chief scientist is supportive, and he also points to a project in Western Australia where Year 6 and 7 students are being taught Einstein's theory of general relativity.
The idea that we should stretch our students and really teach them contemporary science in interesting ways is a critical path to the future of science in this country.
Shiny? No. Yeah. Is it magnetic? What's the matter?
There are ample reports from all around the world that we've tended to teach science in a way that is very traditional and, in essence, pretty old-fashioned.
The students at Ithaca Creek certainly are fans of the new approach.
Well, I usually think that science is really boring and, like, not fun, but
when Mr. Stewart came in and he started giving us all this stuff, I'm like, this is actually quite fun.
We've made a molecule which has 10 hydrogens,
And
5 carbons, which are these, 2 oxygens, and 1 nitrogen.
And what's it called?
2 nitrogens.
It's called glutamine.
Do you know that this is the kind of stuff that like older kids learn?
They do in grade 11 or 10 or something.
And how does that make you feel?
Special.